My name is Sandrine Olmy. I'm a registered nutritional therapist, and I've also studied the psychology of eating and how to help people have a great relationship with food and really enjoy that. Very, very passionate about food. And today I am here to talk about hormones, and I call it the hormone dance after having a baby, because there's so much going on in the body. It's quite complex, but I'm going to focus on four key areas that can make a big difference the way you feel. We'll basically, in terms of my story, so I'm a mum myself, but my journey to parenthood was a little bit different because my husband and I adopted a baby girl. She's now 4 years old. I can't believe it, four already. And she was 4 months when she came to us. So for us, parenthood was very different. It happened overnight. But we still obviously went through, the sleepless night and the getting up in the night to do the feed and the high stress levels because you don't really know what you're doing. And in fact, that kind of triggered an interest around postnatal nutrition. I trained as a nutritionist, but never really focused in that area. And when I looked for postnatal nutrition, at the time, there wasn't that much information. I know there's a lot more now, but there's still, I think, room for sharing the benefits of nutrition when you're a new parent, because it can make such a big difference the way you feel, particularly energy levels. And so in my clinic is called Savoir Faire Women's Nutrition. I work mainly with women, but I can work with men, of course, as well. But I deal mainly with digestive issues and hormone balancing. Now, what does that mean? Well, digestive issues could be things like bloating, acid reflux, IBS type symptoms, constipation, diarrhea, that sort of thing, and also period pains for women. And all of these symptoms, I experienced those about 10 years ago. And that's what encouraged me to study nutrition, because I was trying to sort out these issues for myself, but finding that conventional medicine wasn't really helping that much, because I guess these issues didn't feel that serious that they needed investigating any further. So you try to cope, but you soon realize that these things are not going away, and bloating is just not normal. There is a reason behind it, unless you've had a heavy meal, of course. And then I soon realized that when you have poor digestion, it then has an impact on your hormones. So that's why I work on both at the same time, because they're completely intertwined. And my journey started because I went abroad and I suffered from terrible food poisoning. And I didn't know at the time that by suffering food poisoning and by being very, very ill, I basically wiped out my gut, all my gut bacteria, the friendly ones, were completely wiped out. And from that time, it was a starting point for issues to then develop. So so I mentioned why I'm interested in postnatal nutrition, and today I'm going to talk to you about all the different hormones, that, not all of them because there are so many, I'm just going to focus on the key ones. The ones that are affected obviously when you're pregnant and when you've had your baby, but also the one that can have an impact. So let's use those names, okay? We have estrogen and progesterone. So when you give birth, what an event. First of all, giving birth. Anyone who's watching, congratulations if you just had a baby, and because this is the biggest event ever. And in terms of your hormones, basically both estrogen and progesterone climb to a level that equates about 100 contraceptive pill in a day. And this is what a doctor has said. Her name is Dr. Aviva Rom, and she is a women's health specialist in the US, and she's a midwife, and she's a trained natural doctor, and so she knows so much about female health. And when she mentioned that 100 pill in a day, I mean, your body must go into shock basically. And so once you've given birth, it takes a few days for your body to then recuperate in terms of hormones, for the hormones to level out again. And at that point, you have another hormone called oxytocin. And this is the happy sort of mood hormone. It's supposed to make you feel happy, but sometimes it's supposed to counterbalance the drop of estrogen and progesterone, but sometimes it's not quite there. Hence why some women may experience low mood. And it's really important to keep an eye on that to see if it does go away, because if it doesn't, you may need support. And that's really important to go and see your GP about that, okay? So, I talked about that, just making sure I'm giving you everything because I'm so passionate about this, but there's a lot of information. So we talked about oxytocin. Now, if you're breastfeeding, you may find that may impact on your hormones as well, and you may find that your cycles are irregular for a while, but that's completely normal. Now, what we want to have a look at is what else impacts estrogen and progesterone. So estrogen and progesterone are sex hormones. Now, when we look at the whole body, we have lots of hormones, and hormones are chemical messengers. They're essentially giving orders to various organs. And imagine a cascade with lots of little rivers, and all of these little rivers are hormones, okay? And our sex hormones are right at the end of that cascade. And then what I call the master hormone right at the top with priority number 1 is stress. So you can imagine what goes on in the body. When we're stressed, we have a hormone called cortisol, that basically instructs our body to protect itself because we're being attacked or something dangerous is happening. That's why stress is triggered usually. And it instructs the body to shut down some functions of the body. And the sex hormones, because they come right at the end of this sort of cascade, they can be not shut down, but impacted massively. And that could explain why some couple may experience difficulty conceiving when there's a lot of stress around. Now, stress, you know, we are surrounded by, let's face it, you know, there are so many situations in our life that can cause stress, you know, be at home, be it at work, be, you know, what's happening at the moment. I think everybody is experiencing a bit of stress. But when you see the impact it has on the rest of the body, I would really encourage you to try everything you can to try and minimize that stress, or at least have some time when you can relax. And I'm sure you've seen all these different talks that Alice has organized, and yesterday was about reflexology and Reiki, and all these amazing techniques are so good to help reduce stress and just boost general health. So stress is a big one, okay, and that has a big impact on our sex hormones. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is sleep. And you're going to tell me, oh, I'm a new parent. How the hell am I supposed to sleep? I know sleep is one of those things that cannot be replaced by anything, really. But the biggest advice I can give you from a parent, from being a parent myself, is to try to sleep when you can. I promise you, it really, really helps. I used to hate napping, and but I just came to the conclusion that if I wanted to, you know, to function, I needed to nap, even if for 15 minutes, you know, when my daughter was napping. Now, what happens when we lack sleep? And what's the connection with hormones, you're going to tell me? Well, the hormones that is related to sleep is called melatonin, okay? And when we are sleep deprived, we have 2 hormones that kick in. We have one called leptin, which is a satiety hormone, is the hormone that tells us when we are full. So when you eat and you feel full, okay? And then we've got another hormone called ghrelin, and that's the hunger hormone. And this one increases when we lack of sleep. So and you probably have noticed this, that when you don't sleep very well, you tend to be more hungry and you tend to eat more because you don't feel satisfied. So that would explain why, people that are sleep deprived tend to put on weight perhaps more easily than other people. So hence why really, really key to try and get as much sleep as possible. And I know it's a huge challenge, especially in the first few months of baby's life. So now what you can do to improve your sleep is eat specific food. So there is an amino acid called tryptophan, and tryptophan is a precursor to serotonin. Serotonin is another sort of happy mood hormone that is made in the gut. And you can eat specific foods that contain tryptophan that then help with the production of serotonin. And then serotonin also helps with melatonin production, which is your sleep hormone. So where do you find tryptophan? In mainly protein-rich foods, so your chicken and turkey and eggs, fish, nuts, seeds, and dairy products as well. Okay. Now the next point, the next hormones that can impact once you've had a baby is insulin and blood sugar levels. So why do I want to talk about this? Well, let's put ourselves in a situation where you haven't had much sleep and you're busy during the day looking after your baby. That's probably very demanding. And quite often I meet a lot of ladies who perhaps skip breakfast because it just doesn't happen. And then lunch is minimal. And then in the afternoon, there's massive cravings, really huge cravings for just anything that will give you energy. So what happens with insulin? Insulin is the hormones that control our blood sugar in the body. And when we eat food, then insulin is released, and in fact, insulin is like a key to our cells. It opens our cells so the sugar can go, the glucose can go into our cells to give us energy. But when we eat meals that are very high in sugar or carbohydrates, so when we basically insulin spikes, so our energy goes up and then insulin goes down and our energy goes down. And that kind of forms like a roller coaster. So you like have a, let's say, carbohydrate rich breakfast, you feel okay. Then maybe about 10 or 11 o'clock, you probably feel a bit down and that you need a pick me up. So you'll maybe have a biscuit or something sweet to keep you going, and then energy goes up again and then crash again. So what you want to do is really avoid this roller coaster and have constant energy so that you feel in control and you feel like your energy is just released constantly throughout the day, as opposed to feeling really low and really high later, or the other way around. So the best combination meals for that is to include some kind of protein, any type of protein. It could be meat, fish, plant protein, pulses, that sort of thing. Some fiber, because that slows down the release of the glucose from the carbohydrate, and protein, fiber, and healthy fat. Healthy fat keeps you full for longer. Plus, we need healthy fat. We need omega-3 for our brain. And our brain's working super hard, especially when you're looking after a baby. So that's your combination: protein, fiber, healthy fat. That, if you have that every meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner, even your snacks, then you're guaranteed to have really, really good energy. And I've got a little handout so I can share that later as well, with sort of snack ideas that are kind of balanced. I think new parents find that quite useful, because sometimes you just don't know what to eat. You just open the fridge and you've only got a few minutes before baby starts crying. So maintaining blood sugar levels, really important, because if we don't do that, then that can lead on to serious condition, including type 2 diabetes. So we want to maintain that and not just rely on sugar for energy. So the other thing that's really important is to eat regularly. And I know sometimes it's a challenge as a new parent, but perhaps, when you do prepare something in the kitchen, and I won't say cook because sometimes we just don't have much time, but try to make something that you can eat several times, and you can freeze some, you put some in the freezer, so you don't have to think what you're going to have the next day for your lunch, for example. So eating regularly will help you to manage that energy as well. And when we manage that energy, we manage the insulin levels, it means all our hormones are pretty balanced as well. Because when insulin goes, high, it's causing some kind of stress on the body. And again, so that's your stress hormones, your adrenals, and so on. You can see how they're all interconnected. Okay. So, and then the final point I wanted to cover is nutrients and making sure that you're not deficient in anything. So, for anyone following me on social media, on Instagram, I just shared a little video about vitamin D testing, and it's a really simple test you can do at home. You can do it at your GP, through the NHS, but at the moment it's a little bit challenging. So I'm encouraging everyone to actually get their vitamin D tested, because this is so important for immunity, for hormones, for gut health, for mood, particularly for mood. If you feel a bit low, get your vitamin D test. And you can order that from a company called Better You, and there's other companies doing it. I like Better You because you then get a supplement sent straight after, once you get your results. So as part of the price. And it just means that you're not guessing your numbers. And with vitamin D, you can be very low. Now, let me say something. Sometimes you can get your test done at the GP and they will ring you up and they will say, your levels are normal. Always, always ask for a printout of your results. And I'm saying that because you can then see that there is a range. You'll have low, you'll have high, and you could be anywhere in between those 2 points. But if you are towards the lower end, even though your GP might say, yeah, you're fine, you're in the normal range, you are towards the lower end and you can benefit from extra vitamin D. But you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to, it can become toxic if you overdo it. So you really want to know the exact dosage. So that's the first thing I ask people to do when they come and talk to me, is to check their vitamin D levels. Super important. Now, in terms of other nutrients for healthy hormones, so I mentioned omega-3. So that's your oily fish and walnuts and chia seeds, or you can take a good quality supplement. Just make sure it's a good quality one. And vitamin B, super important for energy. Folate, of course, but also B6 and B12. So I just advise people to basically go for a multi-B vitamin, and it really helps with energy. So if you feel really, really lethargic, that can help. And then we talked about tryptophan-rich food, so that you'll find that in protein-rich food, and zinc. Okay, so these are key nutrients. So omega-3, your B vitamins, tryptophan-rich food, zinc. Another thing we haven't talked about is magnesium. And magnesium, basically, every time we experience stress, our body uses up magnesium resource. So we need to replenish those. So you can do it in different ways. There is something called Epsom salt that you can put in your bath, which is really nice, because that means you could have a bath and a little bit of me time, and your whole skin, your whole body absorb. Lovely, you love magnesium. Yes, me too. It's a wonderful nutrient. Thank you, Kate. Everyone should have that in their cupboard, because every time we're stressed, we use it, and also it is needed for about 300 functions in the body. I couldn't name all of them, but super important for mood, for again gut health. I love Epsom salt. Excellent, very nice. I know as a new parent, it's hard to find the time to have a bath. In fact, I had one the other day. I hadn't had one in such a long time. The oil is wonderful, especially when you are experiencing pains from carrying your baby, like your muscles are really sore. I suffered from that massively. And you spray this oil in the evening. It does smell a little bit metallic, but if your partner doesn't mind, and it penetrates in the skin, and the next day you feel so much better, so much better. Yeah, good point. Magnesium oil. Yes, thank you, Kate. So brilliant. So I think I've covered all the nutrients, and then just some top tips to really kind of keep your energy up, basically. And by doing that, it's going to help you produce healthy hormones, which hopefully will, you know, not giving you unpleasant symptoms. So what have I written on here? And all this information is more or less in my little guide called I've Just Had a Baby, What Should I Eat? So I will put a link in the comments. So nutrients for healthy energy, and that really applies for mum and dad, okay, for both parents. So to eat regularly, like I said, it doesn't have to be big meals, but eating really regularly is what's going to help you sustain that energy and last until the evening. And I know they're long days. Include protein, healthy fat and fiber at every meal, even your snack. Just, you know, you're about to have a snack, just think about it, look at it. Just look at it. Has it got any protein? Has it got any healthy fat? Has it got fiber? And then the other thing is color. I just love colors. I don't like to tell people eat your vegetables. It's a bit boring. Just look at your colors. If your plate is colorful, your tummy will be really happy. That's the way I look at it. So eat the rainbow. Avoid sugary foods, obviously. We don't need to cope with that. I think people know what they shouldn't be eating. I think it's really focusing on adding to your diet as opposed to, I don't like restriction. So in fact, dark chocolate is my friend, you know, especially at the moment. I mean, any of you eating lots of dark chocolate because it's got plenty of magnesium? That's my excuse. And then to avoid caffeinated drinks and like energy drinks, that sort of thing, because caffeine depletes you from nutrients and it impacts on our sleep as well. So if you're really struggling with your sleep quality, then it's something worth considering. And things like Coca-Cola, and they have caffeine as well. And so if you want to hydrate your body, because the way the body detoxes our hormones once they've been used is either through the liver. And if our liver is congested, then it's going to struggle to get rid of these hormones. And then that's when we experience unpleasant symptoms. Or it gets rid of the body gets rid of the hormones through the kidney. And that we need to drink lots of water, lots of herbal teas to just flush everything out. So that's basically it. So we talked about hormones fluctuating after baby has arrived. And we talked about oxytocin, the happy hormones that helps to counterbalance that. But there are many things that impact our sex hormones, and that includes stress. So doing everything you possibly can to reduce stress is wonderful. Sleep, just sleep when you can. And then blood sugar levels, really try to manage that because that will pay off in the long term. And then finally, look at nutrients and if you have any particular nutrient deficiencies. And the final point I will make, because I'm so passionate about digestive health, is to really encourage everyone to listen to their own bodies and to, you know, to really listen to the signs. And if something is not quite right, and even if some tests are showing you that everything is normal, but you deep down feel, you know, this bloating or these period pains are not right, go and find out, you know, go and get some help. I help people like that, but there's lots of people like me. And don't stay like this because it can only get worse. So if you want to feel great, really get in tune with your body, and there's lots of help to help you do that. So I hope this was useful. Any questions? I see there's 3 people watching. Any questions?